Now we have six beautiful papers in this session. The first to start with, I welcome Dr. Neena Gupta, Assistant Professor, Central University of Jammu, and she is going to present a paper on a burning Mega Majumdar's representation of Subaltern Indian in Neo-Patriot Nation. So now we are going to listen to a interpretation on the story of a victim named Jeevan, a Muslim woman, uh, and the problems that he had in the New Patriot Nation. Welcome, Dr. Neena Gupta. Ma'am, over to you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Good evening. Again, so nice to be in the middle of such a scintillating discussion all the time. Thank you so much, Dr. Charulata, for your welcome. Um, can I share the screen or shall I just speak?
Of course, you're welcome to share the screen, please. We are awaiting. Thank you.
Okay, all right, all right. I'll just. Yes. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I was very fascinated by a burning Megha Majumdar's novel, which won a lot of acclaim. It came out in 2020, and right in the middle of um, the pandemic. It was a very different kind of a read, and it made I think a lot of people during that time when they were housebound and introspecting about where the world is going and where we are going. It sort of made a lot of sense to mull over those things which Megha Majumdar has taken up in the novel. So my topic, as you say, is her representation of the subaltern Indian in the new patriot nation. So I'm here, the cover just wanted to share. Of course, I don't know how many of you may have read it, but a burning has this the very basic idea of India as a nation that is traversed through trains. It is joined by the Great Indian Railway, and the burning of the trains and the burning of and the burning issues of the day, and the explosions and the terrorism and the anger which is there in India are all sort of encapsulated in this title. And Yagyasi, another author who is both diasporic as well as part of the post-colonial writing, is very impressed with it, and she says that the ripple effect of our choices and, and the interconnectedness of our humanity are represented um, through this very very young author. She's born in Kolkata, and just now we concluded a session in which Kolkata was the center of discussion, and so here we have another very vibrant voice, and she is of course now privy to two traditions, the Indian tradition and the Western tradition, especially the American tradition, having studied at Harvard. And now, so she understands some of the issues which are at the center and at the heart of the way we look at life, what it is that India is as an ancient civilization and a multicultural or pluralistic society. As the keynote speaker yesterday had spoken, Professor Nanduri had said that we can have a melting pot scenario in a multicultural society, or we can have a salad bowl scenario in a multicultural society. So, what is it that we are, have been, and what is it that we are aspiring to be? These are some of the questions I think today all of us, whether we are in academia or we are outside academia, as at a personal level, all of us are dealing with this issue. So this is called an extraordinary debut. Of course, lots of first novels are called that. Now, Goodreads says it is like a thriller because it has all those ideas of class, fate, corruption, justice, and the obstacles which are there for the common man, and yet there are dreams of making it big in a country which is now, this is now Goodreads, and I wanted especially to draw our attention to the fact that we are torn about the opinion of those who are outside the country and by those who are inside the country. Therefore, the term that I've used, neo-patriot, in my title sort of hints at this. So we have the patriots, we have the diaspora, the Indian diaspora, we have those who are privy to what is happening in our country and who are interested in what is happening in India. And we also have now a whole brigade of what I am calling neo-patriots who are looking at patriotism and nationalism in a totally different and very emotive, very personal way. And this is, of course, the story of a young girl in Kolkata, and it holds a mirror to the current political situation in the United States. This is what Harvard Review is saying. So, this book really fascinates us because it is telling us a situation which is, in fact, occurring all over the world. It is so specific to India, the story of this novel, but it also connects with the United States. So, Majumdar herself said that the parallels between India and the US are stunning. This is a little strange because US is always lecturing to us about our human rights, and we still have people, lots of Indian diaspora as well as the non-Indians there who are always saying that India is, um, flouting the human rights conventions, and we are never looking after the human interest. And we ourselves also feel that there is no value of human lives in India. But the fact is that in the US, Black Lives Matter also came up. And what happened after the the public murder of George Floyd, was that the whole situation exploded. So, in a strange way, though she hasn't really written after that incident, the in an uncannily striking very similitude, when the book A Burning came out, it also um, coincided with the happenings of what was happening in the US at the time. So the failings of governance, governmental violence, and the anti-public stance, the public sphere is sort of under, let's say, a kind of a re-reckoning in these times, and especially the role of the social media and media outlets on public opinion and on the politics of the contemporary world is very, very interesting. So the paper explores the concept of the subaltern Indian, and the novel represents them. That success and freedom eludes we the people despite 75 years of planning and striving to create an equal and free society. Secondly, it seeks to understand the strangely new mix of subaltern striving, elusive success, and a heady new opium of patriotism of the new patriot. Thirdly, the patriot as individual and as the functionary of the state is coercive or coerced into actions that are against the spirit of the rules and of the times. The fourth aspect is the perspective created by the double consciousness of the diasporic writer. Since this is a conference on the Commonwealth, I just wish to again reiterate that the perspective of the diasporic writer is a little different from that of the native indigenous writer or of the citizen. And this is a new tribe of writer who straddles two cultures. So they can see the truth hidden from the sight of the native and the citizen. And as Rashdi says, they're straddling two worlds and can convey what the citizen and the native perhaps cannot see or cannot conceive of, because their perspective is limited to their own group of people or their own country or their own philosophy. So Majumdar has the perspective of the objective yet empathetic outsider for the precarity of the subaltern in the USA and in India. And the subaltern is repressed both ideologically and through coercion. So here we find that the entire Frankfurt School, in fact, and the Marxism of Gramsci is sort of can be seen put into practice. And there is also the notion of hypercorporality, which is the third person consciousness of the body as an object in the midst of other objects. So the whole idea of the dominated and the dominant, of the subaltern and the elite, is the fact that the objectification of the the ones who do not count, the objectification of the powerless, is so much at the center of world politics today. There are principles, there are theories, there are such high flying notions in the world. The conceptual idea of the liberal humanist, and then the global world, and then the fact that the whole world is a family, which is the quintessential Indian context, they say. Despite all these high fluting ideas, we find that the ordinary, the common man, really has no way of making it big. So the story starts in the middle, and in the middle means for us in India, it is like we're always in the middle of an attack. So a terrorist attack happens at a Kolkata slum near Kolabaga, and this is near to where the protagonist Jeevan lives. And Jeevan and her family have moved to the slum from a nearby village, from where they have been evicted because of development. So, I mean, I was looking at a lot of papers that happened today, and one was on post development as well. So, one of this, the post development aspect is that while some people are developing and some areas are being developed, a lot of people are being dispossessed, and they have to pay the price of development. So Jeevan herself is one of those people. So when Jeevan is just a young girl, and the police, come and take her away because she has posted um, a video. I mean, she has seen a post by a woman, and she has just added to it. So the policeman paid by the government watched and did nothing while the woman lost everything. This is what she's saying in reply to a post by this woman who said that they were looking, and my husband was trying to take out my daughter from the carriages of the burning train, but the police did nothing. And then again, the policewoman took her away in a policeman. And as she's going, Jeevan is going. She's taken to prison because of this Facebook post. She sees a lot of young men in a vehicle, and they're sailing past. They're speeding, and they're running the traffic lights. They're not bothering about any rules and regulations because their fathers knew police commissioners and members of the legislature, figures who were capable of making all problems disappear. And she feels that she has nobody. And when she's in prison, her mother brings food, ghee, and she learns her way around the corridors of power. So this is, the kind of paradoxical existence of a young girl who is, where is I think. So when government officials discovered Jeevan was at the station on the night of the attack, they use it as further evidence against her. And from here on, we find that her life takes a dive. Now, there are two other people with her. One is Lovely, who is also a subaltern because she lives at the same slum area, and she is also an outcast because she is a transgender, and she is taking English lessons from Jeevan, who is studying, and she has just cleared her 12th, and she is working in a mall as a shop assistant, and so she is also married to married in spirit to a man called Azad, and they have a very beautiful sexual relationship. However, she cannot have children because she is not what you say normal, and therefore there is a whole lot of problem. So she wishes to become a movie star. She's taking acting lessons, and she wants to be a movie star and to have some money. So this is her dream. And there is PT Sir. Now this one is a mediocre man with modest needs, and he gets tempted by the promise of power. So here we have the story of three subalterns, Lovely, and Jeevan, and the PT Sir. All of them are connected with her. All of them are very fond of her. She is a promising girl who has done well at sports, and PT Sir has seen that she's a budding sports girl, and he has always helped her. He wanted her to play more, but she is, responsible for her parents' upkeep because her mother runs a night kitchen where she serves people who are working at night, and her father is bedridden. So she knows that now after her 12th, she needs to work. And so she takes up this extra job and she refuses PT Sir's kind offer to take up sports in a big way. Then um, Lovely is also connected with her because she has her own dreams. Now, PT Sir has the dreams of making it big, but he doesn't know how. Lovely knows how to, that she wants to become important, and she decides that she has some kind of an acting prowess, and so she wants to become an actress. And Jeevan has very small dreams. She just wants to have a better phone because she says that people who put all these Facebook posts, they just have that little extra money for, extra phones, and that's all she wants. But terrorism, the police apparatus, the repressive apparatus of the state, and then the media, it intervenes. So she sort of depends on the media, and then she, wants to, um, use. Take the help of some reporters, and she says reporters will write anything. Now, I've just taken down a few of those quotations because there is this reporter called Panendu Sarkar, whom she remembers his name, and she asked the warden to bring him to her, and she said that I want to talk to him. She pretends that he's a brother, and she says that he will be able to write anything. He will be able to write my life story, and perhaps he will be able to make it clear to the public that she is innocent. But And she says reporters write anything. Now that turns into such an ironical statement because he comes to her regularly, he listens to her story, and her story is that they've been evicted from the earlier place when the police came to evict them. These people in protest had just thrown, she calls them bombs, but actually they were just balls made out of shit and garbage. And so they had pelted the police with that. But when the story comes out later towards the end of the book, he has written, I threw bombs at the police. A terrorist tells her life story. And so she realized that nothing good comes out of contacting the police. The police in India are a source of terror themselves. So you see, terrorism by a terrorist and terrorism by the state are juxtaposed here. So in the, one of the remarks in the novel is, we live in a society where it's now far easier to forget innocent until proven guilty, and evidence is important to a legal prosecution. Successful prosecutable evidence is not collected under circumstances of provable abuse by so-called investigators. And so many times, just anybody who sort of fits the bill, and she is taken because of the post that she added, and because she's a young helpless girl and a Muslim, she is taken away, and then she's given her rights. She's allowed to meet a few people. But now through this, the media, a trial has already been done. She has been considered to be guilty, and people don't have much patience for anybody who has been dubbed a terrorist. So the novel's purpose is to highlight the way underprivileged groups are incentivized to fight among themselves. PT Sir falsely testifies in criminal cases against his party's political enemies in order to supplement his teacher's salary. Lovely must turn her back on Jeevan to ensure that directors will cast her in their movies. Jeevan takes the blame for the government's inability to catch the terrorists, and the public believe that she is guilty thanks to a few anti-government Facebook posts. So this is, a very simple story, but the idea that the public have now turned so overtly hyper patriotic that they will listen to whatever when they listen to something which agrees with their innate beliefs, that a person who's poor and a person who belongs to another community can readily be a terrorist, that they're not willing to examine the evidence objectively, is a very important part of this novel, and it's a very important part of our reality. In fact, I was struck by the prescience of the author, because later we had this toolkit controversy in India itself, where the social media may or may not be used by people, but how the young lot is sometimes considered to be guilty without any hearing. So now PT Sir meets politicians, and he meets a kind of a person who's quite like the person in power in Calcutta. So there's a film actress, and there is Bimal Pal, the the politician, and they tell them that to join the party so that they'll get more jobs and more money. So he leaves his job, which pays less. And Lovely is also told that she will be given an acting assignment. In fact, her video goes viral, and she's there's a small documentary or interview which is shot, and so she also feels that her dreams are going to be realized. So how the dreams of the subaltern are used to divide them, how they are used to stop supporting Jeevan, so that Jeevan can easily be the scapegoat and easily satisfy all the people, and the government can get away uh, by dispensing justice in this way. So she is put to death as a terrorist, and a burning presents a problem again and again, but it doesn't offer hope and it doesn't give any solution. So it is quite dystopic. So in the conclusion, I would just like to quote her that she says, "Ma, I could have been an ordinary person in the world, where girls my age sit under trees, studying from their books, arguing, joking with boys. This is what I have seen in the movies." So in a way, what is happening to our youth, the youth in our country? They are brought up on a kind of a liberal humanist dream in which education lies at the center of their future. And not only their future, the future of their parents who are fighting poverty and government apathy. And then this education has introduced them to social media and has made them realize that they may be nearer to the realization of their dreams than ever before. But the tragedy is that somehow or the other, it is not possible for them to realize their dreams because between the dream and the reality lies the oppressive state. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your lovely presentation. It was like watching the story of Jeevan through a movie. It was so good. So at last, the burning in Jeevan has put up only at her death, I think. Any questions from the participants? Do you have any clarifications, any questions to Nina, ma'am? Okay. May I have one question to you, ma'am? May
Yeah,
I ask,
yes, please.
from your objective perspective of such a situation, can you give a solution or
Yeah.
some alternative to get rid of this subaltern oppression? We may not bring out some changes socially or from
Um,
the perspective, but as a person, as a girl, how one can find a solution or get rid of such problem if one is going to face.
Yes, the sad part about this particular novel is that it's so dystopic because as I being teachers, how we connect with the young and how we teach them to dream. We always encourage them to have some kind of a vision, and then we sort of always emphasize that if you have a vision, if you have a dream, you will surely attain it. So I wish to present this novel just because this girl has just that dream and she has the spunk to go ahead and be work for it. So she doesn't take any excuse. She lives in a slum, like we all know what slums are like. They're just tin sheds and there's hardly anything there. And she dresses up very smartly, like we see so thousands of girls dressing up smartly with her hair done up so well, with a phone in her hand. And a spark today the smartphone is your passport to the world. So she has that in her hand and she goes as a shop assistant, and she's very happy, and she knows that from here she'll take the next step and the next and the next. So education, enterprise, and a vision. I mean, these are the three things that we tell our youth. But how, two things. I mean, that's what I hope I could sort of emphasize, that the state, which is somewhere, it's a new colonial state, which doesn't realize the difference between the colonized, the government of what the colonial government or colonial governance, and the governance of we the people. They still don't understand. When the minute you are in the army or in the police, you immediately take on the mien of the colonial subject, and you forget that you were just one of them. Because you put on the uniform, we also put on our colonial hat with that. So, because this is on the Commonwealth, I do feel that it is not a Commonwealth. It is a kind of a subjectivity, which is which we've inherited from our colonial past. And unless the people learn to distinguish between the personal individual consciousness and perspective and the government machinery, in the individual capacity, we do have our mind. I mean, that is what enlightenment sort of tells us. We do have a mind. And as Indians, we have such a beautiful ancient tradition to teach us, that the whole world is connected. Why are we in India, in this conflict in which we cannot make a choice between the ancient and the modern? And what is modern asking for? The modern is asking Indians to just take their beautiful culture, which was very private, or it was a very inclusive culture, and just take that culture and put it in the public sphere. All we need to do is, just take that beautiful idea which we use in our homes, in our communities, and share them with the rest of the people who had been excluded up till now. But we cannot. And for the last 5-6 months, the kind of reading I've been doing, I've realized that in India, as in the rest of the world, poverty is a kind of a curse. We have not woken up to the fact that poverty is man-made and it's a material thing. We still somewhere connected with your sins and with some kind of a divine punishment, and therefore we look down upon people who are in that state. So the public is preconditioned to judge them negatively, and then when the media, which is supposed to be independent, also does the same thing. So the thing, to answer it directly, I think the thing is that we need to take our beautiful minds, individual minds, and use them more inclusively.
Absolutely, I agree with you, ma'am. We should try to identify the humanity in us.
Yes, that is.
Irrespective of whatever the profession we are in, we have to.
If I may take another minute, the thing is that individually, yes, we are all dealing very well. We are such family people, we are such community people. We'll do anything for our families. We'll even go to jail for our families. Like Jeevan is ready to do anything for. But why cannot we do it for the so-called other? Somebody who's not immediately in our family. So we need a more inclusive ideology. Indians have a more exclusive ideology. We need a little more inclusive vision.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your nice presentation. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Any other questions? Shall we move on to the next presenter, participants? Now we have the second presenter, Ms. Ahalya, a research scholar from Holy Cross College, Nagarkoil. Ms. Ahalya, are you here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
So now she's going to present the first Naga novel in English, and now we are going to listen to a story of the battle between Britain and the little warrior village of Konoma in 19th century, where Nagas were bonded as laborers. The title of today's presentation by Ahalya is Life of a Naga Man as a Warrior, an analysis with reference to Kaya's novel The Sky is My Father. Over to Ahalya.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I'm Ahalya, and I'm here to present a paper titled Life of the Naga Man as a Warrior, an analysis with reference to Kaya's Sky is My Father, under the guidance of Dr. Virgin Nityavina, Assistant Professor, Holy Cross College. So here, coming to my author, Easterin Kaya, she's a well-known author, and she's a Nagaland writer, and she acts as a voice for her society. She brings out the indigenous tradition and culture of the Nagaland throughout her works. She is the receiver of the Governor's Medal of Excellence.
Ahalya, I'll make a note, 1 minute.
Yes.
We shall limit our presentation to 8 minutes. Okay,
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. So now coming to the novel, Sky is My Father is a historical fiction. It is the winner of the Hindu Literary Prize. It talks about the 19th century Nagaland, its suffering, social taboos, rituals, festivals, and even how hardworking the people are. It is from the young age the importance of the group, importance and the glory of the warrior has been taught to the children, and it sticks deep into their subconscious mind. And their father is the best example for every child. But as we all know, being a warrior is not easy. Death is their close companion. Our protagonist, Levi, has arrested and suffered a lot in the jail. But the people of Nagaland are ready to accept the sufferings and they are ready for the war. Even the women are ready to send their husband to the war. This quote is about the Levi's wife who is not stopping Levi from taking part into the war. Even her mother-in-law once warned her about that this Levi's wife that she should stop him from going to war because they have very small kids. Both two boys, both are very younger than 5 years. But she is not ready to accept that because she wants to live as a warrior's wife, and they are strong and stubborn to face any situation. They are tortured very badly by the British government because they are not ready to obey the whites. They follow their own culture, tradition, and they live as they are. And when the whites go beyond the limit, they react and they wage war very seriously against them. Before war, and these two quotes, these are the words of an English officer, and that clearly explains how these people are tortured. The first quote it explains how the people are tortured, and the second quote it explains how these people react to it. And to the next thing, before war, they discuss about the war and they plan about it and how they can wage war. They also heed to the opinions of the old people and give respect to their experience. To them, a man is a man only if he is a good warrior and ready to wage war to save the village and the king. To them, if only he is ready to wage war, the warrior, if he is ready to wage war for the kin and his women folk, he has been portrayed as a great being. And these people of Nagaland, they are not only the warriors, these warriors, they are also very hard workers in the field. Every day they work in the field with their children. And only on Jenna days, they are not working because they consider this working on these Jenna days to be a sin. And they strictly follow their own traditions and customs. And even if they suffer a lot as a warrior, they doesn't feel for it, they doesn't regret for it, they are happy for it and they accept it very happily. Even our protagonist Levi, he has been arrested by the government and British government, by the whites, and he suffered a lot in the jail for 6 years. But after returning, he is ready to wage war against them. Happily, he accepts the sufferings. This would be a great example for how these people are, because as we all know, she portrays the sufferings of the people uh, through her protagonist as a warrior. So, to sum up, see, the appreciation and respect has been given to the bravery of every warrior as a people, and that acts as a main thing of their culture that improves their growth. There will be a festival to appreciate the warriors who return after the war with victory, and to the men who kill the tiger bravely. Because killing tiger is also considered very brave. To them also, a festival has been conducted to appreciate them. And similarly, after the victory of the war, they conduct festivals and they appreciate these people. Even they use gunshots in those festivals, and that gives happiness to the mind of these people and strength to the mind of these people. So, the importance of bravery and the eagerness to become a warrior has been sown deeply in the subconscious mind of every young child through these festivals. Because when these children, when they see this festival and how they are honored, they create an deep thinking that we should also get these honors, which in turn creates a powerful warrior. With this, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Agalya, for your wonderful
Yes, ma'am.
presentation. Is there any questions from the participants? Shall we move on to the next presenter? Now, like the third presenter is Shikani Sai, who has co-authored with Shelly T. Asumi, Salesian College of Higher Education. Is Shikani is here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now she is going to present a paper on magic realism in Eastern Khair's work with a special reference to Forest Song, When River Sleeps, and Son of the Thundercloud. Over to Shikani.
Thank you, ma'am. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, visible, Shikani. You can proceed.
Thank you. We are presenting on the topic magic realism in Stephen Kiri's works with reference to the forest song, When the River Sleeps, and Son of the Thundercloud. When we talk of Stephen Kiri, most of our writings, it springs from the Angami oral tradition, but we see that it opens up a window and we are able to delve into the similar practices of the Nagas as a whole. So we will be presenting from the perspective and the context of the Nagas. So when we talk of Nagas, we see that they are a group of tribal people, and they belong to the Mongolid race. And we see that they share a very close affinity with the northeastern part of India, and we chiefly inhabit the state of Nagaland. And Shiku, in his book, he says that the Nagas, their eyes, the hair, the complexion, their looks, it looks like the Burmese or the Thais, the Chinese. So we get to see that these are indigenous people, and they also practice a lot of customs and traditions. And we also see that it is passed down like orally, in an oral manner. We see that their culture is reflected, and we see their culture in their folklores, their attires, the dances, their songs, etc. And so we also see that they are a multicultural ethnic group, and they are a lot, like the people are very diverse. And one problem in here is that this diversity cannot be documented because usually they do not have their own written script, and so it has become difficult in documenting. And also we see that the younger generations, they are becoming very detached with their, they are getting lost touch of their, the traditional practices with the influx of the modern, the Western influences, or the religion, the education. When it came, we see that with the modernization and with the technological advancements, we get to see that this younger generation, they are becoming very detached. And so this detachment, it has become a significant thing, and also a kind of concern for many writers. And many writers writers, researchers, and also some younger generation, they're very concerned about it, and they want to revive it, also preserve the tradition from getting extinct. And so in here, to the forefront comes writers like Eastern Kire and also Temsula Au. They write a lot of novels and poems and short stories, and we also see that they are received with great acclamation. And coming to the writer Eastern Kire, we see that she's one of the prolific writers, also a social critic and a forerunner of the Naga writings in English. So she was also the first Naga writer to publish a book of poetry in English. Also, her novel, A Naga Village Remembered. So this is considered to be the first English novel in Nagaland. And we also see that she has published a lot of notable writings. And Istirin Kire, we see that she sketches very vivid picture of her society, and with the use of magic realism. That is the title, that is the topic of our research paper in here. So when we talk of magic realism, we see the blend of both the real and also the dreamlike elements, or the supernatural, the mystical elements, which is very beautifully blended in her works. And we see that when we talk of the early Nagas practiced religion in the form of animism. So animism. When we talk of animism, they believed, the early Nagas, they believed in the presence of spirits in every object of nature. So they also believed in the concept of the supreme being, also the supreme being, the highest being, or he is also known as the benevolent father. And not just that, but the Nagas, also early Nagas especially, they worshipped the spirits of lakes, also maybe rocks, hills, caves, etc. They believed in it, and we see superstitious beliefs and mysticism, which see that it was an enormous part of their lives. And we see that it conditioned and framed the beliefs of and also framed their social practices. So we see that Isirin Kire, she portrays the traditional practices of the Naga society in her writings, and she also plays the role of a social commentator. And not just a social commentator, but also we see that her works also voices out the social condition of women in a patriarchal setup. In Nagaland, we see that the society is patriarchal in nature. And so with the writings, with the publication of books like Terrible Matriarchy, this book, it has also been received with great acclamation. It was published in the year 2007. So she voiced out a lot of difficulties and that women go through. So these are to do with the life of Isirin Kire and also her work. When we come to the book, the novel that we are presenting on, When the River Sleeps, we see that Kire, she makes the readers experience both the supernatural presence of the spirits, which is very intricately woven, and it forms the integral part and shapes the narratives of the early life of the Nagas, and also her Angami culture in particular. She belonged to the Angami tribe, but we get to see that through her writings, we also see the reflections of Naga writings. And we see that their animistic beliefs is reflected in this story also. And Vile, we see that he is the protagonist in here. He's a lone hunter. He starts, searching for the Heartstone. So, after Vile, the very protagonist, after hearing the story of the sleeping river, that is the mysterious river, he could not, he becomes very restless, and that he decides that he should start searching for this very Heartstone. And so he continues to get dreams for almost 2 years. Every month he would get dreams, and he becomes restless. So he goes on a journey to find this mysterious river and catch the stone, while it was sleeping. So we see that the sleeping river, when we talk of the sleeping river, it was said that the enchantment was so real, so strong, that whoever is able to snatch out a stone from the river while it was sleeping, he can ask for any kind of wishes. The stone had magic in it, and it can become his if he is able to wrest out a stone from it. And so we see that Villiers starts journeying to find the story, to find his dreams, and so the sleeping river of his dreams. And when we talk of dreams, we see that excuse me, it makes up an important part of the life of the Nagas, and not just during the early days, but also during in the contemporary world and in the contemporary society. And so in here also, Villiers sets out his course to follow his dreams. Another thing that we find in this novel is that the early Nagas, they followed Christianity, in a very nativized way. We see that their belief was very nativized, and even with the advent of the Christianity during the mid-19th century, so the American missionaries, they reached Nagaland, during the 1940s and the 1950s. But even after accepting Christianity as their religion, we see that they started integrating their old, practices and their beliefs, and they started, interweaving it with their religion. And so, the religion was also very nativized. And in the course of the novel, in When the River Sleeps, we also see many supernatural occurrences which affected the life of the the natives. So there is one example given, or an instance wherein a girl named Metuseno, we get to see that she is a very beautiful girl, and like she is admired by many boys. And we also see that, during the harvest season, she sets out with her friends to gather herbs, and they try to climb up in like a tree, like to pluck orchids. And while they are coming back home, she sees that a very dark man, he climbs down the tree, and it starts following them home, and which her friends could not see, only she could see. And that when she reaches home, we get to see that she contracts a very terrible fever, and that after some time, she tells those people who are tending her, like saying that the man is just sitting by her bed. And after that, we see that she grows silent for hours. And after that, we also see that she starts contorting her face, throwing her head back, like she goes limp, and we get to see that she dies in a very ominous circumstance. So when we talk of ominous circumstance, this is also very reflective of the Naga society, because such deaths, when such deaths occurs after encountering spirits, it is said that they are not allowed to be buried in the village. Nagas do not allow burial in such circumstances, and we see that they are buried outside of the village life, or on the outskirts. Such burials takes place outside on the outskirts. And so we see that the natives also believed in the presence of not just the benevolent father, but also malevolent spirits which cause havoc. And the Nagas usually try to appease those bad spirits by offering sacrifices. So those are the conditions during of the early Nagas, the natives in here. And when we talk of we also see men who lose their spirits, maybe in the jungle, their spirits stay behind. There are a lot of narratives to do with that also. And in here, Kire also in her story, The Forest Song, she mentions a man who loses his spirit while he climbed a great tree. And so we get to see that his clansmen, they try to gather, and they try to bring back to guide his spirit back to him. But we get to see that even after that, after he returned, he starts behaving differently, because he finds that a part of his soul has been left on the tree, and so he goes back to the tree for a second time to bring back and to recover himself fully. And so he also consults the seers. He takes instruction from him, and he starts for his journey. So we get to see that in one of the papers by Hukli Jimomi, she says that that like any other Nagas, we get to see that Sumis, Sumi is also a tribe in Nagaland. So we see that they also believed in the idea of the seers. They call themselves as Tumuni. Tumuni, they call themselves seers are called as Tumuni in their tribe. So just like that, not just in one tribe, but we get to see that most of the Naga tribes believed in the idea of seers. And since they did not have any kind of medical access during those times, so they used to consult the seers. And also when they are in need of communicating with the unseen world, they go to the seers. So this is one thing that we see. And we also get to see that even after the conversion to Christianity, there are some instances of these practices which are still prevalent in certain areas. And we get to see that even in this very story, Kire says that the person named Pesohe, we get to see that he consult a seer before taking this journey. And we also get to see another important thing is in her writings is that of lycanthropy. So when I talk of lycanthropy, it means the mythical transformation of a person into an animal. And so we get to see that in the context of the Nagas, they believe that a person, his spirit can be transformed into weird tigers. And that in the novel, When the River Sleeps, also we see that Ville encounters a weird tiger when he was trying to sleep in one of the shades on the fields. And we get to see that the tiger attacks him, and Ville tries to shoot his gun. in order to scare the tiger away. And we also see that, it really confirms that this is a weird tiger, because the tiger comes back for the second time. Usually it was believed that ordinary tigers, they used to keep away from human beings, but we get to see that this tiger comes back and it confronts. And so he calls out several names, and he starts rebuking the tiger because he was aware of their names. And we get to see that despite the secrecy, people knew all the names. It was a secret, but we get to see that people in the region knew all the names, and that is why he started calling out to their name, and he started rebuking them, saying that was not the hospitality that he should be receiving from the same clan. And so we get to see that in this novel the plan worked, and the tiger, weird tiger, lives. And in here, the narrator Istirin Kire, she comments that weird tigers, they usually begin as a very small creature like a cat, and that slowly it starts metamorphosing into a tiger. And so we get to see that when we talk of the concepts like lycanthropy, it is no longer prevalent in the modern context, but we continuously keep on hearing the stories and the folklores in our narratives. And so we get to see that, and Kire tries to preserve all these narratives in her work. And also, as we continue on to read on about in the novel, we see that she mentions the unclean forest again. Unclean forest, so this is named as Rahuria. And so it was believed to be infested by the spirits. And usually all men and women, all men and women, they try to warn children to keep away from such forests, because it seems those spirits usually take away the children and try to engage them in a play, and only when they get tired they release children. And when the children comes back, they narrates instances as to how they are fed with the berries, the roots, and even sometimes they are fed with worms. And when we talk of the forest in here, the unclean forest, it was said that when people roamed around the very forest, they complained of fever and headaches. And so we get to see that the narrator in this very novel also comments of how before, when people got lost, people, it seems the native used to release chicken in in the forest, proclaiming life for life. And we get to see that this kind of beliefs started, or rituals discontinued after the arrival of Christianity, because they started believing that Christ died for everyone, and so they did not have to sacrifice anything. And with the arrival of the Christianity, we see that Nagas started to do away with many animistic beliefs and rituals. So we see that in the forest, we get to see that when he starts sleeping, he starts getting paralysis in this very unclean forest, and that he starts getting cramps, and in his dreams the spirit starts chasing him. And when he actually wakes up, in reality also he finds that he could not move himself, and that there was something on his chest that was that has an indistinguishable shape. And so we see that he starts, he tries to scream, but he couldn't. And that but he suddenly remembers the words of the seer, and he says he starts fighting against the spirit. So we get to see that the seer said that spirits would submit to the authority of the spirit if they asserted greater authority. And this is why we see that he starts fighting, and we get to see that he wins one in here also. And when we talk of the spiritual life, yes, ma'am. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes, Khan. Can you condense it to 1 minute, maybe? It's getting too late for the other participants, because you have a very big defects you have taken for analysis, right? Can you condense what is a common theme for findings that you find in all the three texts that you have taken for analysis? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, then we'll just go with the conclusion. Then we have a lot of points in here, but okay. So
Okay. So with regards to conclusion, we can see that in all the three novels,
Kire works with a fine blend of both natural as well as the supernatural, and through her stories, Kire documents the oral narratives of her people from the face of cultural decadence. Okay, she tries to preserve the tradition of our oral tradition of the Nagas, and her works vividly depicts the myths, beliefs, and practices of the Naga people with realistic language and clarity. And with regards to religion, at present, Christianity holds sway in the lives of Nagas, and 96% of people in Nagaland are Christians. However, festivals and folklore, songs, etc., are still an integral part of the Naga society. And along with the prayers to Christian God, the old rituals have been abandoned with the coming of Christianity.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the wonderful presentation, because through your presentation we came about the tradition of Nagas and Nagalands and how it is carried out, how it is recorded in the book of Nagas. It was well presented by Shikani. Thank you, Shikani. The participants, do you have any questions or clarifications to Shikani? Okay, shall we move on to the next presenter? The next presenter is Miss T. Maitreyi. She's a student from Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science. And now she is going to present the inevitability of nature. Over to Maitreyi. Maitreyi, are you here?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Patient.
Yeah. We'll go on with my presentation now.
Maitreyi, are you talking? We couldn't hear your voice. Maitreyi, are you online?
Ma'am, I'm sharing my PPT.
Okay, done. We are waiting.
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is this visible?
It's
Ma'am?
visible, Kana.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's visible. We can start.
Yes, ma'am. A writer only begins a book, but a reader finishes it, by Samuel Johnson. Happiest evening to one and all. Here we can go with my presentation. So the topic will be the inevitability of the nature. About presenter. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for providing me with this valuable opportunity. My name is T. Maitreyi. I'm doing my final year bachelor's degree in English literature, and I'm from Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science for Women, Coimbatore, which is located in Tamil Nadu. Methodology. So here is my methodology. I have used ebooks, books, research papers, dictionary for my research article. And here is the abstract. Let us have a look at my abstract. This research paper opens the curtain for aloof, inevitable, possession, independence, and imagination. And well, this paper also tells us about the current world scenario where changes are inevitable. Yes, the changes are inevitable, and we cannot prevent it from happening. This paper also deals with how imagination can either uplift or depress them in their life. This paper gives the importance of one's self-possession. Here, it throws light to the real flesh and blood of poetry lies in turns of phrases, vivid images, and the power of the imagination of the poet's unusual thoughts. And let's get into the introduction part. This research article aims to bring out the inevitability of nature through the poem of the dying eagle by the foremost Canadian poet of the first half of the century. He is none other than Edwin John Dow Pratt. Edwin John Dow Pratt is a three-time winner of the country's Governor General's Award for Poetry. E.J. Pratt was strictly controlled by his father, John Pratt. Fanny Pratt is his mother, and Fanny Pratt has laid back and an obtrusive, whereas John was meticulous. Fanny inevitably developed a closer, more comradely relationship with the children. He studied psychology and theology, and as a result, he would have known how to write the poems at the Eagle's Point. So, another Greenwood Tree by Thomas Hardy was edited by Edwin John Dow Pratt in 1937. Pratt's work is full of images of primitive nature and evolutionary history, says Peter. And moving on to the next slide, it's about independence. Yeah, we all know that independence means nothing more than freedom. The eagle is self-sufficient in its domain. It does not rely on any other creature for survival. This eagle has no adversaries. There is no such bird that can fly between heaven and earth. An iron had entered, causing it to lose its independence. However, following the invasion, the eagle king's head was carved in a bunch of his shoulders, and his inner independence was also curbed within itself. So, like this independence, the tips of his wings sprawled down to the edge of his tail. He was old, but it wasn't this age that drove him to roast on the cracks like a rain-soaked raven perched on an oak branch in November. So, in V.S. Napal's India, a Wounded Civilization, Paul observes that despite India's independence, the country's tradition is lacking and modernism has taken over. He also mentions how modernism has changed India and caused it to lose its tradition. The animals in animal form are not self-sufficient. They are held captive by the power of the head, whereas the eagle is self-sufficient. So in this animal form, William George also covers the point that the animals are held by a power. They are not independent. And moving on to next slide, it is self-possession. So everyone has a special treasure, right? So that is a self-possession. The eagle is pleased with its possession. It has a majestic appearance, right? And an admirable body structure. It has the most predatory eyes, the sharpest beak, and the longest nails. Because the crag served as his throne, he feels like a king. See, look at the picture. It shows how majestic the eagle was. Sorry, the eagle is. And the eagle see, after certain years, the eagle will knock beak against the crack and waits for its newest sharp beak to grow. And the eagle's self-possession is lost once the invader enters. The eagle's eyes are filled with fear. His feathers are dull and tattered, and his brave appearance has been replaced by a cowardly one. His his fireful eyes uh, has turned into dim eyes. That means the light in his eyes has vanished. He is feeling the eagle is feeling suffocated. The invader's shoulder. So now the poet comes to explain about the possession of the invader. So he tells that the invader's shoulder are silver plated and his legs are lying in his claws, giving the eagle pass. The mighty bird's feet were as powerful as cliffs in granite. So next, appearance versus reality. So we all know that in the novel Othello, seeing is believing for Othello. So to prove something is to investigate it, which reveals its true nature. Without any investigation, the Eagle King, like Othello, so what does Othello did in the novel Othello means? He blindly believes Iago's words and he just kills Desdemona. So the same thing is happening in the Dying Eagle also. Without any further investigation, the eagle believes that his self-possession is less valuable than the invader's possession. So next will be the imagination slide. And here. Imagination. So imagination transports us to our imaginary world. We all have some dreams that can be seen by imagination, right? So, the poet transports us to our imaginary world where our fantasies can be seen. It refers to the ability to create and stimulate novel objects and sensations. The poet writes the poem from the perspective of an eagle. So, using his imagination and thoughts, he is writing in the perspective from a perspective of an eagle. So he claims that the entire boundless sky, forest, and flowing horizons are the eagle's empire. See, we don't know how far the sky is and how long the sky is, but through his imagination, he's giving a description. The invader flies. So he's also comparing that the invader flies like a bullet from a gun, and the Eagle King even considers pterodactyls which existed before the vulture and were capable of killing its prey in the Aiden's mountain range. So no one knows what the predator will look like, but Pratt transport us to an imaginary world with this dying eagle. And in A.D. Hope's Australia, he notes that there was a phoenix from Egyptian myths in Australia. In the poem Australia. So he just tells us about the phoenix, a figure, the body of a lion and the head of a man. So poet also mentions that invader is staying on its orbital path. How did the arbitrary axis come to exist in the sky? No one knows how, but he's taking us through his imagination. So the mighty bird even reached orbits without even a single rise or fall. The eagle imagines that a new invader has come to destroy and invade his throne. He suspects that it is a fire dragon. So he's just making some imagination thoughts in this poem. And William George transport us to an imaginary world. Just like Pratt, he's also transporting us into an imaginary world where the animals are conversing in animal form, in the novel animal form. William George believes that even William George and E.J. Pratt believe that through the use of animals, they can convey a message to the readers. And moving on to the next slide, it's about loneliness. Loneliness, we all know that we all feel sometimes lonely. We all sometimes maybe aloof from someone. So loneliness is a negative emotional reaction to perceived isolation, as per lines said by Pratt in The Dying Eagle: close to the sun in lonely lands. Pratt says, implying that the eagle prefers to be alone and usually sits on a mountain. Mountains are located far from human settlements, right? So the eagle is a magnificent creature with a distinct shape that lives at extremely high altitudes. Because of where the eagles choose to build their nests, humans are usually unable to see them. We can't see eagles oftenly. So he's just mentioning that. And Pratt takes so the eagle is aloof in somewhere high altitude place, and this thing that Pratt takes this to the next level of loneliness. With the eagle being aloof by its heart, he's also telling that see, the eagle was not only aloof by distance, but also by its heart. It is aloof. Even before the sunset, sitting alone in the crack, feels like he was the king. He was the king of the throne. But when the invader arrivals, the eagle feathers on his neck have bristled. It was just standing like something since the invaders' visit. Soon after the invaders' arrival, the eagle flew away with a rapid beat. He was just flew. He was just flying like something, the rapid speed, and leaving all his loneliness behind. He leaves all his loneliness behind, and he was just flying like something. So, as like that, a tradition like an eagle now standing alone in the face of modernism. So moving on to next slide. It's about inevitable. Inevitable is something certain to happen and cannot be prevented, right? So the poet also gives the same thing. We cannot stop what's happening because it's unavoidable. It is an unavoidable occurrence that cannot be avoided. See the phrase, see the sentence. It is an unavoidable occurrence that cannot be avoided. The poet mentions that inevitability of how new tradition overtakes the old tradition. We must accept modernism and adopt it to ourselves. Tradition versus modernism is like an eagle versus an invader. See that eagle didn't know what was that object is, whether it is an object or it doesn't know about anything. It just simply thinks that it was something that has came to destroy him and take over the throne. So the Eagle King was perplexed by the strange birds' back shoulders. So looking at the birds that strange invaders' back shoulder, the eagle was just puzzled. And the strange bird's speed is twice that of the eagle. The eagle king is a little bit slow, but a little bit slow comparing to the strange bird's speed. And according to Alfred Lord Tennyson compares the eagle to a thunderbolt in the poem. A thunderbolt is a flash of lightning, and an eagle in a flash soars high and dips low lightning speed. The anger and unconcern of this supercilious bird that flew over the eagle king's dominant bothered him the most. The strange bird doesn't even bother about. He didn't bother about eagle king. So this action made eagle king most disappointed. And it was the eagle who believed it was a bird and could not bear inevitability, so he was disappointed. So he's just thinking that and see how this strange bird is passing me. Even I don't have enemies, and I have grapple over enemies, but this strange bird moves without concern. So this made the eagle king disappointed. And the next slide is conclusion. So it is no surprise that changes are unavoidable on all counts and with proven results. This paper concludes that Pratt has vividly demonstrated that changes are unavoidable, regardless of nature. Modernism both during Pratt's time and now pushed tradition backward. This implies that everyone must accept natural changes and adapt to them. The writers convey the message that modernism has surpassed tradition in India, a wounded civilization, and the dying eagle. So through this India, a wounded civilization, and in the dying eagle, the writers are conveying that the modernism has surpassed tradition. In the dying eagle, E.J. Pratt conveys this indirectly, whereas in the wounded civilization, V.S. Naipaul conveys it directly. And that's all. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
wonderful.
providing me the opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, wonderful presentation from Maitreyi, young budding student of third year, BE English Literature. Super, very good presentation. It's a combination of V.S. Naipaul and Pratt, pushback in getting the modernity surpassing the tradition. That's true. Okay. Any questions from the audience? Other presenters? Any questions to Maitreyi?
Hello. Hello. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, I just wanted to congratulate Maitri for making a very good attempt on making a presentation about poems. So I just want to congratulate her for that.
Okay, good. Any other questions from the participants? Okay, with your consensus, we'll move on to the next presenter, Syriac Matthew, sir, research scholar from Nazrat Bhavan, Andhra Pradesh. Abdul Kalam said, creativity is seeing the same thing but thinking differently. Now we have a scholar who has thought differently on the work of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam and impact on Abdul Kalam biography. A perspective view. I think it's going to be a different perspective. We welcome Syriac Matthew. Over to Matthew.
Good evening to all of you are present here. My name is Syriac Matthew. I'm a PhD scholar on English. My topic is Vision and Mission and Spirituality of Abdul Kalam. So I'm just presenting this paper on this biography based. I'm not doing the PowerPoint presentation, just I'm giving orally. Is it okay, madam?
Yes. Yes,
So I just talking about abstract. People from all over the world have attacked us, taken our territories and dominated our minds over the course of 3,000 years. From the Alexander forward, the Greeks, Turks, Mughals, Portuguese, British, French, and Dutch all came and robbed us and taken away what was ours actually. That's why my initial vision is one of liberty. I feel that India first saw this in 1857 when we began the battle of independence. This is the freedom we must safeguard cultivate, and expand. No one will appreciate us if we are not free. My second vision for India's future is that we have been a developing country for the past 50 years. It's a past time for us to recognize ourselves as a developed nation. In terms of GDP, we are among the top 5 countries in the world. In most regions, we are growing at a pace of 10%. I have a third vision that India must stand up to the rest of the globe because, in my opinion, unless India stands up to the rest of the world, no one will respect us. Only strength is respected by strength. We must be powerful, not only militarily, but also economically. So I would like to give an introduction about the paper that Abdul Kalam was the finest technocrat who led many technology of missions in taking the country on the path of self-reliance with the homegrown technologies. He approaches very simple that led to the development of indigenous solutions instead of high technology from the developed nations. And Abdul Kalam was born October 15, 1931 in Rameshwaram, Tamil Nadu, to a Tamil Muslim family. That time it was in Madras Presidency. His father was a Muslim and was a boat owner and a part-time imam at a local mosque, while his mother Ashima was a nursing housewife. His father had a close relationship with the local Hindu and Christian clerics who instilled spiritual ideas and beliefs in Kalam. And Kalam says about his father that he was not technically educated, but was a guy of immense insight and love. And we can read, and we can, when we read his autobiography, we see that his parents influenced him a lot in his lifetime. And Kalam graduated in Ramantapuram, his high school education, and he joined St. Joseph College in Trichinapalli for PSc, for the BSc in physics. Later, he joined in the Madras Institute of Technology in Tamil Nadu. His top objective was to join in Air Force, but unfortunately, he could not succeed. He just narrowly missed out. Instead, in 1958, he joined the Defense Research and Development Organization as a junior scientist. And he worked as on a fighter jet research and development for the Indian Air Force. He was chosen to work in 1963 as a rocket engineer with an Indian Committee for Space Research, and he was a forerunner to the Indian Space Research Organization, which was commanded by the Professor Vikram Sarabhai. And Kalam also was nominated for a 6-month training program in sending rocket launching procedures at the National Aeronautic and Space Administration in the United States. His NASA expertise paid dividends as he worked as one of the primary architects of the India's now thriving space program. That is, he played a key part in the construction and the deployment of the India's first indigenous satellite launch vehicle, SLV-3, which successfully launched the Rohini RS-1 satellite into the Earth orbit in July 1980. After nearly 2 decades at the ISR, he turned to DRDO in 1983 as its chief executive to surprise the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program. During the 1980s, under his direction, the IGMPDP developed and operationalized the Agni and Prithvi missiles to establish the indigenous capabilities in crucial technologies. Following the success of the IGMP program, Kalam was promoted to the chief scientific advisor to the Prime Minister and Secretary of the DRDO, and he served the country from July 92 to December 99. Professor Y.S. Rajan, the co-author of several publications, was the executive director of the Technology, Information Forecasting and Assessment Council, and an autonomous organization within the Ministry of Science and Technology. This Y.S. Rajan influenced a lot Abdul Kalam for his writings. And Abdul Kalam had 5 areas of combination, identified based on his India's core competence, natural resources, and talented manpower for integrated action to double the based on India's core competence. So the first thing he was, the first region he was identified was agriculture and food processing. He had with the goal of tripling current food and agriculture product production by 2020. Second one was infrastructure with reliable and the quality of electrical power, including solar power farming for all other parts of the country, providing urban amenities and rural areas and interlinking of rivers. Third thing which was more concentrated was education and healthcare to provide a social security and the eradication of illiteracy and the health for all. Formation and the communication technology. The other point was that this is one of our fundamental skills. We know that ICT, and it's a source of income too. ICT may be utilized for tele-education, telemedicine, and e-governance to boost education to remote places, healthcare and administrative transparency. And this pandemic shows us what is the clear picture of ICT, how much it influences the whole world. And the last thing, the fifth point he was concentrated was the critical technologies and the strategic industries have been expansion, the nuclear technology, space technology, and defense technology. The book India 2020, a vision for the new millennium, was a refinement of the TIFCA's series of free technology vision of 2020 publications. And when we look at his autobiography, we see a very touching point. And one of the points that after his talks delivered in one of the universities, a 10-year-old girl came up to him for an autograph. Then Abdul Kalam asked, "What is your ambition?" Then she said, "I want to live in a developed India." She replied without any hesitation. After hearing her answer, he dedicated the book for her, and millions of Indians shared a lot of inspiration for her. For different reasons, Kalam was dubbed as the People's President and the Missile Man of India. In an obituary noted, writer Mark Tully says that he became known as the People's President because he welcomed the people inside the palace in New Delhi. Actually, it was constructed by one of the last viceroys by the British architect Sir Edwin Lutyens, and made himself available wherever he traveled. And Kalam was a key figure in some of India's most successful programs, including the creation and the launch of the SLV-3 and indigenous guided missiles, which earned him the title the Missile Man of India. His leadership style was very unique and exemplary, as it was documented in a research paper titled Visionary Leadership, a Survey of Literature and a Case Study of Dr. Abdul Kalam at DRDL by R.S. Dwivedi. During his presidency, Kalam evolved many innovative ideas for a sustainable development and people's empowerment to be implemented by the national and the local governments, including the providing urban amenities in rural areas. Right, the short form is PURA, and it became a central scheme titled Provision of Urban Amenities in Rural Areas in 2020, led by the Ministry of Rural Development and implemented on pilot based under the public-private partnership framework during the 11th five-year plan. And he was bestowed Bharat Ratna, the highest civilian honor. Not only Bharat Ratna, he got Padma Bhushan in 1981. Again, Padma Vibhushan, it is 1990. He became an elected fellow of the national academics, such as an Indian National Academy of Engineering, the Indian Academy of Science, Bangalore, National Academy of Science of India, and honorary fellow of the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering. And he also received the honorary doctors from different universities in India and abroad. Kalam had established himself as a skilled writer.
Yes,
Uh,
Mr. Matthew.
Yeah.
Can you sum up your observations quickly in few sentences?
Yeah. The last thing I want to just tell that he has published many novels. Those novels. It reveals a lot of inspiration for all of us. And this can be, his work can be divided into three categories, like autobiographical, visionary, and inspiration. And he also co-wrote two autobiographical books, like Wings of Fire, an autobiography with Arun Tiwari, and Turning Points: A Journey Through the Challenges. In order to spark a desire for India, he became a developed nation in near future. Many of his books have been highly rated or reviewed by Book of Orders, and the best book, and it is reviewed by the people. Readers of authors at the goodreads.com website. We can see The Wings of Fire, an autobiography. That is the best book we can taken for his study. And that is a paper which is based on an autobiography, The Wings of Fire, written by Abdul Kalam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you for giving us a detailed description on Kalam. Any questions from the participants? Okay, all the best for your research. We'll move on to the next presenter, Dr. D. Joy Christina, Sarah Jaikodi, Assistant Professor on Sacred Hearts College, Tirupattur, on contribution of diverse ethnic groups to multiculturalism in the novel White Teeth by Jadia Smith. It's a partial manuscript, a novel White Teeth. It's between the four wartime friends. Is Joy Christina, Dr. Joy Christina ma'am is here? Dr. Joy Christina? Okay, she's not here, I think. Organizer, can you check whether Dr. D. Joy Christina is willing to present or she is here?
Jai Christina, are you here? Ma'am, I think she's not turned up, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. For all the five presenters, everybody have come up with very unique ideas that we can find out in the sharing of the public forum. Thank you for all your presentation and sharing your ideas for the budding scholars and especially the student Maitreyi who has presented too well. And thank you, Dr. Neena ma'am, for sharing your ideas. And thank you, Shikani and Halya and also Sriyat Matthew and Neena Gupta ma'am. Thank you everyone for making this day very fruitful, and we have made the day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.